Blessed love and peace. This is a recitation of Tobari Gokadao, Torah, Bhagavad Gita, Digha Nikaya, Dhammapada, Gospels, Quran, and Tao Te Ching. Portion numero 27, which is Tazria. This includes from Torah, Parsha Tazria, which is Vaikra 12:1 a 13:59, the Chandogya Upanishad 4 Kanda 4:1 a 3. From the Bhagavad Gita, it is the Raja Vidya Raja Guya Yogehe numero 9. From Tao Te Ching, it is chapter 27. From Minke, it is chapter 7 of 28. From the Digha Nikaya, it is the Maha Parinibbana Sutta numero 16, chapter 6. From the Dhammapada, it is not the Dhammapada, it is actually the Metta Sutta. And from the Gospels, it is Luke chapters 9 and 10. From the Quran, it is Surah Ankabut and Surah Ar-Rum, which are 29 and 30. And from the Kitab Yaktas, it is verses 77 a 95. Let's get that correct. It's actually verses 115 a 133. Say it again. 115 a 133. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahu Abha. Dao Ke Dao Fe Chong Dao Min Ke Min Fe Chong Min Ja Rastafari. Deus noster qui es in celi sanctificator nomen tuum. Vaheguru Satnam. Baruch atah Elohim Eloheinu melech haolam asher ksanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'asok b'davarei Torah. Amen. Kyrie eleison. Sivamastu save jagatehem. Sabe sata bhavantu sukhitata. Vagabiyam. Akwaba upendo na amani. Fikir inisanami. Chindadam peramian. Libovimir. Womanjeka. Ubuntu. Shabono. Fakithka. Shisha. Como senida. Domo arigato. Pilama yelo wakan toko. Toko dokushin good. Go remed agat. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Ata jamya yata afanami. Mado. Aho. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Amen. Torah, Tazria, Vaikra 12:1 a 13:59. And Elohim spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, If a woman conceives and gives birth to a male, she shall be unclean for 7 days. As in the days of her menstrual flow, she shall be unclean. And on the 8th day the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised. And for 33 days she shall remain in the blood of purity. She shall not touch anything holy, nor may she enter the sanctuary until the days of her purification have been completed. And if she gives birth to a female, she shall be unclean for 2 weeks, like her menstruation period, and for 66 days she shall remain in the blood of purity. And when the days of purification have been completed, whether for a son or for a daughter, she shall bring a sheep in its first year as a burnt offering, and a young dove or a turtle dove as a sin offering to the entrance of the tent of meeting to the Kohen. And he shall offer it up before Elohim and effect atonement for her, and thus she will be purified from the source of her blood. This is the law of a woman who gives birth to a male or to a female. And if she cannot afford a sheep, she shall take 2 turtle doves or 2 young doves, one as a burnt offering and one as a sin offering, and the Kohen shall effect atonement for her, and she shall become clean. And Elohim spoke to Moshe and Aaron, saying, if a man has a seyet, a sepachat, or a baheret on the skin of his flesh, and it forms a lesion of zaraat on the skin of his flesh, he shall be brought to Aaron the Kohen, or to one of his sons, the Kohanim. The Kohen shall look at the lesion on the skin of his flesh, and if hair in the lesion has turned white, and the appearance of the lesion is deeper than the skin of his flesh, it is a lesion of za'arat. When the Kohen sees this, he shall pronounce him unclean. But if it is a white baheret on the skin of his flesh, and its appearance is not deeper than the skin, and its hair has not turned white, the Kohen shall quarantine the person with the lesion for 7 days. And on the 7th day the Kohen shall see him, and behold, the lesion has remained the same in its appearance, the lesion has not spread on the skin. So the Kohen shall quarantine him for 7 days a second time. And the Kohen shall see him on the 7th day a second time. And behold, the lesion has become dimmer, and the lesion has not spread on the skin. The Kohen shall pronounce him clean. It is a mispachat. He shall immerse his garments and become clean. However, if the mispachat spreads on the skin after it has been shown it to the Kohen for its purification, it shall be shown to the Kohen a second time. The Kohen shall look at it, and behold, the mispachat has spread on the skin. The Kohen shall pronounce him unclean. It is za'arat. If a man has a lesion of za'arat, he shall be brought to the Kohen. The Kohen shall look at it, and behold, there is a white sa'it on the skin, and either it has turned the hair white, or there is healthy live flesh in the sa'it. It is old za'arat on the skin of the flesh, and the Kohen shall pronounce him unclean. He need not quarantine him, because he is unclean. And if that za'arat has spread over the skin, whereby the za'arat covers all the skin of the person with the lesion, from his head to his feet, wherever the eyes of the Kohen can see it, then the Kohen shall look at it, and behold, that za'arat has covered all his flesh. He shall pronounce the person with the lesion clean. He has turned completely white, he is clean. But on the day that live flesh appears in it, he shall become unclean. When the Kohen sees the healthy live flesh, he shall pronounce him unclean. The live flesh is unclean, it is za'arat. But if the healthy live flesh once again turns white, he shall come to the Kohen, and the Kohen shall look at it, and behold, the lesion has turned white. The Kohen shall pronounce the lesion clean, he is clean. If a person's flesh has an inflammation on its skin, and it heals, and on the place of the inflammation there is a white za'at, or a reddish white baharet, it shall be shown to the Kohen. The Kohen shall look at it, and behold, its appearance is lower than the skin, and its hair has turned white. So the Kohen shall pronounce him unclean. It is a lesion of za'arat that has erupted on the inflammation. But if the Kohen looks at it, and behold, it does not contain white hair, nor does it appear to be lower than the skin, and it is dim, the Kohen shall quarantine him for 7 days. And if it spreads on the skin, the Kohen shall pronounce him unclean. It is a lesion. But if the baharet remains in its place, not spreading, it is the scar tissue of the inflammation, and the Kohen shall pronounce him clean. If a person's flesh has a fire burn on its skin, and on the healed area of the burn there is a reddish white or white baharet, the Kohen shall look at it, and behold, the hair has turned white in the baharet, and its appearance is deeper than the skin. It is a za'arat which has spread in the burn. So the Kohen shall pronounce him unclean. It is a lesion of za'arat. But if the Kohen looks at it, and behold, there is no white hair in the baharet, and it is not lower than the skin, and it is dim, the Kohen shall quarantine him for 7 days. And the Kohen shall look at it on the 7th day. If it has spread on the skin, the Kohen shall pronounce him unclean. It is a lesion of za'arat. But if the baharet remains in its place, not increasing on the skin, and it is dim, it is a sa'it of the burn, and the Kohen shall pronounce him clean, because it is the scar tissue of the burn. If a man or a woman has a lesion on the head or on the beard area, the Kohen shall look at the lesion, and behold, its appearance is deeper than the skin, and and in it is a thin golden yellow hair, the Kohen shall pronounce him unclean. It is a netek, which is za'arat of the head or the beard. But when the Kohen looks at the netek lesion, and behold, its appearance is not deeper than the skin, and there is no black hair in it, the Kohen shall quarantine the person with the netek lesion for 7 days. And the Kohen shall look at the lesion on the 7th day, and behold, the netek has not spread, and no golden yellow hair was in it, and the appearance of the netek is not deeper than the skin. He shall shave himself, but adjacent to the netek he shall not shave, and the Kohen shall quarantine the person with the netek again for 7 days. Then the Kohen shall look at the netek on the 7th day, and behold, the netek did not spread on the skin, and its appearance is not deeper than the skin. The Kohen shall pronounce him clean, and he shall immerse his garments and become clean. But if the netek spreads on the skin after he has been declared clean, the Kohen shall look at it, and behold, the netek has spread on the skin. The Kohen need not examine for golden yellow hair, it is unclean. But if the appearance of the netek has remained the same, or if black hair has grown in it, the netek has healed, he is clean. So the Kohen shall pronounce him clean. If a man or a woman has spots on the skin of their flesh, white spots, the Kohen shall look, and behold, there are dim white spots on the skin of their flesh. It is a bohak, pigmentation, which has spread on the skin, he is clean. If a man loses the hair on the back of his head, he is bald, he is clean. And if he loses hair on the side towards his face, he is bald at the front, he is clean. If there is a reddish white lesion on the back or front bald area, it is a spreading za'arat in his back or front bald area. So the Kohen shall look at it, and behold, there is a reddish white sa'it lesion on his back or front bald area, like the appearance of za'arat on the skin of the flesh. He is a man afflicted with za'arat, he is unclean. The Kohen shall surely pronounce him unclean, his lesion is on his head. And the person with za'arat in whom there is the lesion, his garment shall be torn, his head shall be shorn. He shall cover himself down to his mustache, and call out, unclean, unclean. All the days the lesion is upon him, he shall remain unclean. He is unclean, he shall dwell isolated, his dwelling shall be outside the camp. And as for the garment that has the lesion of za'arat upon it, on a woolen garment, or on a linen garment, or on threads prepared for the warp or the woof of linen or of wool, or on leather, or on anything made from leather, if the lesion on the garment, the leather, or the warp or woof threads, or on any leather article is deep green or deep red, it is a lesion of za'arat. It shall be shown to the Kohen. The Kohen shall look at the lesion, and he shall quarantine the article with the lesion for 7 days. And he shall look at the lesion on the 7th day. If the lesion has spread on the garment, or on the warp or woof threads, or on the leather, or on any article made from leather, the lesion is a malignant za'arat, it is unclean. And he shall burn the garment, the warp or woof threads, or wool, or of linen, or any leather article which has the lesion upon it, for it is a malignant za'arat, it shall be burned in fire. But if the Kohen looks, and behold, the lesion has not spread on the garment, the warp or woof threads, or any leather article, the Kohen shall order, and they shall wash what the lesion is upon, and he shall quarantine it again for 7 days. Then the Kohen shall look at it after the lesion has been washed, and behold, the lesion has not changed in appearance, and the lesion has not spread, it is unclean. You shall burn it in fire. It is a penetrating lesion on the worn or new article. But if the Kohen looks at it after it has been washed, and behold, the lesion has become dimmer, he shall tear it out of the garment, out of the leather, or out of the warp or woof threads. And if it appears again on the garment, the warp or woof threads, or any leather article, it is a recurrent growth of the lesion. You shall burn it in fire, the article upon which the lesion is found. But the garment, the warp or woof threads, or any leather article which is washed, and the lesion disappears from them, shall be immersed a second time, and it shall be clean. This is the law of a lesion of za'arat on a woolen or linen garment, warp or woof threads, or any leather article, to render it clean or unclean. Chandogya Upanishad, Part 4, Kanda 1 a 3. There once lived a king named Janusruti, who was a great-grandson of Janusruta. He bestowed his gifts with respect, gave away liberally, and cooked much food for the hungry. He built rest houses everywhere with the thought that people everywhere would eat his food. One night some flamingos were flying along. One flamingo said to another, "Hey ho, short-sighted, short-sighted. The radiance of Janasruti, the great-grandson of Janasruta, has appeared to the sky. Do not touch it, lest it should burn you." The other replied, "Say, who is this person about whom you have spoken as though he were like Raikva, the man with the cart?" "What sort of person is this Raikva, the man with the cart?" The short-sighted flamingo replied, "As in a game of dice, when the krita is won, the lower ones also are won. So whatever merits people acquire all accrue to that Raikva. As Raikva I describe him to who knows what Raikva knows." Janasruti, the grandson of Janasruta, overheard this conversation. Immediately after getting out of bed, he said to his attendant, "Friend, do you speak of me as though I were Raikva, the man with the cart? What sort of person is Raikva, the man with the cart?" "As in a game of dice, when the krita is won, the lower ones also are won. So whatever merits people acquire all accrue to that Raikva. As Raikva I describe him to who knows what Raikva knows." The attendant searched for him and returned without finding him. Then the king said to him, "Listen, where a knower of Brahman is to be searched for, look for him there." After proper search, the attendant came upon a person who, lying underneath his cart, was scratching an itch. Humbly he took his seat near him and said, "Revered sir, are you Raikva, the man with the cart?" "Oh yes, I am he answered. Then the attendant returned, saying to himself, "I have found him out." Then Janasruti, the grandson of Janasruta, took with him 600 cows, a necklace, and a chariot with mules, and went to Raikva and said, "Raikva, here are 600 cows, a necklace, and a chariot with mules. Pray, revered sir, teach me the deity whom you worship." To him the other said, "Ah, may the necklace and the chariot remain with you, O Sudra, along with the cows." Thereupon Janasruti, the great-grandson of Janasruta, took with him 1,000 cows, a chariot with mules, a necklace, and his own daughter too, and went to Raikva. Janasruti said to him, "Raikva, here are 1,000 cows, a necklace, chariot with mules, this wife, and this village where you shall dwell. Revered sir, teach me." Then, considering her, the princess, as the door for imparting knowledge, Raikva said, "O Sudra, you brought these cows and other presents. This is beneficial, but you will make me speak now only through this means, the princess. These are the villages named Raikva Palma, in the country of Mahavishwas, where Raikva lived. Now Raikva said to the king, "Verily, Vayu, the air, is the swallower, the Samvarga. For when fire goes out, it is indeed swallowed by the air. When the soleil sets, it is swallowed by the air. When the moon sets, it is swallowed by the air. When water dries up, it is swallowed by the air. For indeed, the air absorbs them all." So much with reference to the celestial. Now with reference to the body. Verily, the prana is the swallower. When a man sleeps, speech goes into the prana, sight goes into the prana, hearing goes into the prana, and mind goes into the prana. For indeed, the prana absorbs them all. These are the two swallowers, the air amongst the celestials, the prana amongst the senses. Once Sonaka of the line of Kapi and Abhipratirin, son of the Kaksha Sena, were being waited upon at their meal. When a brahmacharian begged food of them, they did not give him anything. He said, "O Brahman, Prajapati swallowed the 4 great ones." He said, "One celestial of Brahman, Prajapati, swallowed the 4 great ones. That celestial is the guardian of the world. O descendant of Kapi, O Abhipratarin, living beings do not see Brahman, though Brahman abides in manifold forms. Verily, this food has not been given to Brahman to whom it belongs." Sanaka of the line of Kapi, pondering on those words, went to the brahmachari and said, "Brahman is the self of the celestials, the creator of all beings. With unbroken teeth, the eater, the truly wise one. They speak of Brahman's magnificence as great, because without being eaten, Brahman eats even what is not common food. O Brahmacharya, we meditate upon this Brahman." Then he said to the attendants, "Give him food." They gave food to him. Now these 5, the eater, Vayu, and fire, the soleil, the moon, and water, which are its food. And those 5, the eater, prana, and the organs of speech, the eye, the ear, and the mind, which are its food, make 10. These together constitute the Krita, the highest throw in a game of dice. On account of this similarity of 10, these 10 are the food in the 10 quarters, and further they are Virat, the eater of the food, by which all this becomes seen. All this he sees, and the eater of food he becomes. Who knows this? Yea, who knows this? Bhagavad Gita. Raja Vidya Raja Guya Yogehe. Número 9. Shri Krishna says, to you, O Arjuna, who do not carp, I will propound this, the greatest mystery of knowledge combined with realization, by understanding which you will be released from evil. It is the sovereign science, the sovereign mystery, and the supreme purifier. It is perceived by direct experience. It accords with Dharma. It is easy to practice, and it is imperishable. Men without faith in this Dharma do not attain me, O dreaded Arjuna, but return to the path of the world fraught with death. By me, in my unmanifested form, are all things in this universe pervaded. All beings exist in me, but I do not exist in them. And yet the beings do not dwell in me. Behold, that is my divine mystery. My spirit, which is the support of all beings and the source of all things, does not dwell in them. As the mighty wind blowing everywhere ever rests in the Akasha, know that in the same manner all beings rest in me. At the end of a cycle, all beings, O son of Kunti, enter into my Prakriti, and at the beginning of a cycle I generate them again. Controlling my own Prakriti, I send forth again and again all this multitude of beings helpless under the sway of Maya. And these acts, O Dhananjaya, do not bind me, for I remain unattached to them as one unconcerned. Prakriti under my guidance gives birth to all things, moving and unmoving, and because of this, O son of Kunti, the world revolves. Fools disregard me when I assume a human form, for they are unaware of my higher nature as the supreme master of all beings. Being of the deceitful nature of fiends and demons, they cherish vain hopes, perform vain actions, pursue vain knowledge, and are devoid of judgment. But the great-souled men, O Partha, who are endowed with that divine nature, worship me with undisturbed minds, knowing that I am immutable and the origin of all beings. Ever glorifying me, always striving with self-control, remaining firm in their vows, bowing before me, they worship me with love and unwavering steadiness. Others again offer the oblation of knowledge and worship me either as one with them or as distinct from them, and still others in various ways worship me, whose form is the whole universe. I am the offering, I am the worship, I am the oblation to the mains, and I am cereal. I am the hymn, I am the melted butter, I am the fire, and I am the offering. I am the far of this universe, the more, the sustainer, and the grandsire. I am the noble, the purifier, and the syllable Om. I am also the Rik, the Salman, and the Yajus. I am the goal and the support, the master and the witness, the abode, the refuge, and the friend. I am the origin and the dissolution, the ground, the storehouse, and the imperishable seed. I give heat, I hold back and send forth rain. I am eternal life, O Arjuna, and also death. I am being and I am non-being. Those who know the 3 Vedas and drink the Sama juice and are purified from sin worship me with offerings and pray for passage to heaven. They reach the holy world of Indra and enjoy in heaven the celestial pleasures of the angels. Having enjoyed the vast heavenly world, they come back to the world of living beings when their merit is exhausted. Thus, abiding by the injunctions of the 3 Vedas and desiring desires, they are subject to death and rebirth. Those persons who worship me, meditating on their identity with me and ever devoted to me, to them I carry what they lack, and for them I preserve what they already have. Even those devotees who, endowed with faith, worship other angels, worship me alone, O son of Kunti, though in a wrong way. For I alone am the enjoyer and the master of all offerings. But these men do not know me in reality, hence they fall. Those who worship the angels go to the angels, those who worship the mains go to the mains, those who worship the spirits go to the spirits, and those who worship me come to me. Whosoever offers me with devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, that I accept, the pious offering of the pure in heart. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer in offerings, whatever you give away, and whatever you practice in the form of austerities, O son of Kunti, do it as an offering to me. Thus you shall be free from the bondage of actions which bear benevolent or evil results. With your mind firmly set on the yoga of renunciation, you shall become free and come to me. I am the same towards all beings. To me there is none hateful or dear. But those who worship me with devotion, they are in me, and I too am in them. Even the most sinful man, if he worships me with unswerving devotion, must be regarded as righteous, for he has formed the right resolution. He soon becomes righteous and attains eternal peace. Proclaim it boldly, O son of Kunti, that my devotee never perishes. For those who take refuge in me, O Partha, though they be of sinful birth, women, Vaishyas, and Sudras, even they attain the supreme goal. How much further, then, if they be holy Brahmins or royal seers devoted to God, to Brahman. Having come into this transitory, joyless world, worship me, fix your mind on me, be devoted to me, offer to me, bow down to me. Having thus disciplined yourself and regarding me as the supreme goal, you will come to me. Dao Te Ching, 27. Benevolent traveling does not leave tracks. Benevolent speech does not seek faults. Benevolent reckoning does not utilize counters. Benevolent closure needs no bar and yet cannot be opened. Benevolent knot needs no rope and yet cannot be untied. Therefore sages often save others and so do not abandon anyone. They often save things and so do not abandon anything. This is called following enlightenment. Therefore the benevolent person is the teacher of the bad person. The bad person is the resource of the benevolent person. Those who do not value their teachers and do not love their resources, although intelligent, they are greatly confused. This is called the essential wonder. Menka chapter 7. Menko says, opportunities of time vouchsafed by heaven are not equal to advantages of situation afforded by the earth, and advantages of situation afforded by the earth are not equal to the union arising from the accord of men. There is a city with an inner wall of 3 li in circumference, and an outer wall of 7. The enemy surround and attack it, but they are not able to take it. Now to surround and attack it, there must have been vouchsafed to them by heaven the opportunity of time. And in such case, their not taking it is because opportunities of time vouchsafed by heaven are not equal to advantages of situation afforded by the earth. There is a city whose walls are distinguished for their height, and whose moats are distinguished for their depth, where the arms of its defenders, offensive and defensive, are distinguished for their strength and sharpness, and the stores of rice and other grain are very large. Yet it is obliged to be given up and abandoned. This is because advantages of situation afforded by the earth are not equal to the union arising from the accord of men. In accordance with these principles, it is said, a people is bounded in not by the limits of dikes and borders. A state is secured not by the strengths of mountains and rivers. The kingdom is overawed not by the sharpness and strength of arms. He who finds the proper course has many to assist him. He who loses the proper course has few to assist him. When this, the being assisted by few, reaches its extreme point, his own relations revolt from the prince. When the being assisted by many reaches its highest point, the whole kingdom becomes obedient to the prince. When one to whom the whole kingdom is prepared to be obedient attacks those from whom their own relations revolt, what must be the result? Therefore the true ruler will prefer not to fight, but if he do fight, he must overcome. As Menko is about to go to court to see the king sends a person to him with this message. I was wishing to come and see you, but I have got a cold and may not expose myself to the wind. In the matin I will hold my court. I do not know whether you will give me the opportunity of seeing you then. Menko replied, unfortunately, I am unwell and not able to go to the court. Next day, he goes out to pay a visit of condolence to someone of the Dongguo family. When Gong Sun Chao says to him, yesterday you declined going to the court on the ground of being unwell, and today you are going to pay a visit of condolence. May this not be regarded as improper? Yesterday, said Menko, I was unwell. Today I am better. Why should I not pay this visit? In the meantime, the king sent a messenger to inquire about his sickness and also a physician. Mingzong replies to them, yesterday when the king's order came, he was feeling a little unwell and could not go to the court. Today he was a little better and hastened to go to court. I do not know whether he can have reached it by this time or not. Having said this, he sends several men to look for Menko on the way and says to him, I beg that before you return home, you will go to the court. On this, Menko feels himself compelled to go to Jing Chao's, and there stops the night. Mr. Jing says to him, in the family there is the relationship of father and son. Abroad there is the relationship of prince and minister. These are the two great relations amongst men. Between father and son, the ruling principle is kindness. Between prince and minister, the ruling principle is respect. I have seen the respect of the king to you, sir, but I have not seen in what way you show respect to him. Menko replies, oh, what words are these? Amongst the people of Qi, there is no one who speaks to the king about benevolence and righteousness. Are they thus silent because they do not think that benevolence and righteousness are admirable? No, but in their hearts they say, this man is not fit to be spoken with about benevolence and righteousness. Thus they manifest a disrespect than which there can be none greater. I do not dare to set forth before the king any but the ways of Yao and Shun. There is therefore no man of Qi who respects the king so much as I do. Mr. Jing says, not so, that was not what I meant. In the Book of Rights it is said, when a far calls, the answer must be without a moment's hesitation. When the prince's order calls, the carriage must not be waited for. You were certainly going to the court, but when you heard the king's order, then you did not carry your purpose out. This does seem as if it were not in accordance with that rule of propriety. Menko answers him, how can you give that meaning to my conduct? The philosopher Zeng says, the wealth of Jin and Chu cannot be equaled. Let the rulers have their wealth. I have my benevolence. Let them have their nobility. I have my righteousness. Wherein should I be dissatisfied as inferior to them? Now shall we say that these sentiments are not right? Seeing that the philosopher Zeng spoke them, there is in them, I apprehend, a true principle. In the kingdom there are three things universally acknowledged to be honorable. Nobility is one of them, age is one of them, virtue is one of them. In courts, nobility holds the first place of the three. In villages, age holds the first place, and for helping one's generation and presiding over the people, the other two are not equal to virtue. How can the possession of only one of these be presumed to despise one who possesses the other two? Therefore, a prince who is to accomplish great deeds will certainly have ministers whom he does not call to go to him. When he wishes to consult with them, he goes to them. The prince who does not honor the virtuous and delight in their ways of doing to this extent is not worth having to do with. Accordingly, there was the behavior of Tong to Yin. He first learned of him and then employed him as his minister, and so without difficulty he became sovereign. There was the behavior of the Duke Huan to Guanzong. He first learned of him and then employed him as his minister, and so without difficulty he became chief of all the princes. Now throughout the kingdom the territories of the princes are of equal extent, and in their achievements they are on a level. Not one of them is able to exceed the others. This is from no other reason but that they love to make ministers of those whom they teach, and do not love to make ministers of those by whom they might be taught. So did Tong behave to Yi Yin and the Duke of Huan to Guanzong, that they would not venture to call them to go to them. If Guanzong might not be called to him by his prince, how much less may he be called who would not play the part of Guanzong? Chen Zhen asks Menke, saying, formerly you were in Qi, and the king sent you a present of 2,400 tiles of fine silver, and you refused to accept it. When you were in Song, 1,680 tiles were sent to you, which you accepted. And when you were in Ci, 1,200 tiles were sent, which you likewise accepted. If your declining to accept the gift in the first case was right, your accepting it in the latter cases was wrong. If your accepting it in the latter cases was right, your declining to do so in the first case was wrong. You must accept, master, one of these alternatives. Menke says, I did right in all the cases. When I was in Song, I was about to take a long journey. Travelers must be provided with what is necessary for their expenses. The prince's message was a present against traveling expenses. Why should I have declined the gift? When I was in Ci, I was apprehensive for my safety and taking measures for my protection. The message was, I have heard that you are taking measures to protect yourself, and send this to help you in procuring arms. Why should I have declined the gift? But when I was in Qi, I had no occasion for money. To send a man a gift when he has no occasion for it is to bribe him. How is it possible that a superior man should be taken with a bribe? Min Ke, having gone to Pingle, addresses the governor of it, saying, If one of your spearmen should lose his place in the ranks 3 times in one day, would you, sir, put him to death or not? I would not wait for 3 times to do so, was the reply. Min Ke says, Well then, you, sir, have likewise lost your place in the ranks many times. In bad calamitous years, and years of famine, the old and feeble of your people who have been found lying in the ditches and water channels, and the able-bodied who have been scattered about to the 4 quarters, have amounted to several thousand. The governor replied, That is a state of things in which it does not belong to me, Zhu Jin, to act. Here, says Min Ke, is a man who receives charge of the cattle and sheep of another, and undertakes to feed them for him. Of course, he must search for pasture ground and grass for them. If after searching for those he cannot find them, will he return his charge to the owner, or will he stand by and see them die? Herein, said the officer, I am guilty. Another day, Min Ke has an audience of the king and says to him, Of the governors of your majesty's cities, I am acquainted with 5, but the only one of them who knows his faults is Kong Chu Jin. He then repeats the conversation to the king, who says, In this matter, I am the guilty one. Min Ke says to Qi Hua, There seem to be reason in your declining the governorship of Li Qi and requesting to be appointed chief criminal judge, because the latter office would afford you the opportunity of speaking your views. Now several months have elapsed, and have you yet found nothing of which you might speak? On this, Qi Hua remonstrated on some matter with the king, and his counsel not being taken, resigned his office and went away. The people of Qi say, In the course which he marked out for Qi Hua, he did well, but we do not know as to the course which he pursues for himself. His disciple Gong Du told him these remarks. Min Ke says, I have heard that he who is in charge for an office, when he is prevented from fulfilling his duties, ought to take his departure, and that he on whom is the responsibility of giving his opinion when he finds his words unattended to ought to do the same. But I am in charge of no office, on me devolves no duty of speaking out my opinion. May not I therefore act freely and without any constraint, either in going forward or in retiring? Min Ke, occupying the position of a high dignitary in Qi, goes on a mission of condolence to Teng. The king also sends Wang Huan, the governor of Gai, as assistant commissioner. Wang Huan, matin and evening, waited upon Min Ke, who during all the way to Teng and back never speaks to him about the business of their mission. Gong Su Chao says to Min Ke, The position of a high dignitary of Qi is not a small one. The road to Qi to Teng is not short. How was it that during all the way there and back you never spoke to Huan about the matters of your mission? Min Ke replies, There were the proper officers who attended to them. What occasion had I to speak to him about them? Digha Nikaya Mahaparinibbana Sutta 16:6. Then the gracious one addressed Venerable Ananda, saying, It may be, Ananda, that some of you may think in this way. The past is the teacher's word. There is now no teacher for us, but it should not be seen like that, Ananda. Whatever Dhamma and discipline has been taught by me or laid down, Ananda, that is your teacher after my passing away. At present, Ananda, the bhikshus address each other with the word friend, but after my passing, they are not to address one another thus. The elder bhikshu Ananda should address the younger bhikshu by his name or by his clan name or by the word friend. But the younger bhikshu should address the elder bhikshu as Reverend Sir or Venerable Sir. Desiring to do so, Ananda, the Sangha after my passing away can abolish the minor and subsidiary training rules. The highest penalty, Ananda, after my passing away is to be handed out to the Bhikshu Chana. But what is the highest penalty, Reverend Sir? The Bhikshu Chana, Ananda, may say whatever he wishes, but he is not to be spoken to or advised or instructed by the Bhikshus. Then the gracious one addressed the Bhikshus, saying, It may be, Bhikshus, that for one of the Bhikshus there is doubt or confusion about the Buddha or about the Dhamma or about the Sangha or about the path or about the practice. Ask Bhikshus, do not be regretful later, thinking the teacher was face to face with us and we didn't ask the gracious one directly about the training. After this was said to the Bhikshu, those Bhikshus were silent. For a second time the gracious one addressed the Bhikshus, saying, It may be, Bhikshus, that for one of the Bhikshus there is doubt or confusion about the Buddha or about the Dhamma or about the Sangha or about the path or about the practice. Ask Bhikshus, do not be regretful later, thinking the teacher was face to face with us and we didn't ask the gracious one directly about the training. For a second time those Bhikshus were silent. For a third time the gracious one addressed the Bhikshus, saying, It may be, Bhikshus, that for one of the Bhikshus there is doubt or confusion about the Buddha or about the Dhamma or about the Sangha or about the path or about the practice. Ask Bhikshus, do not be regretful later, thinking the teacher was face to face with us and we didn't ask the gracious one directly about the training. For a third time those Bhikshus were silent. Then the gracious one addressed the Bhikshus, saying, It may be, Bhikshus, that out of respect for the teacher you do not ask. Then one friend, Bhikshus, can inform another friend about his doubts. After this was said, those Bhikshus were silent. Then Venerable Ananda said this to the gracious one, It is wonderful, Reverend Sir, it is marvelous, Reverend Sir. I am confident, Reverend Sir, that in this Sangha of Bhikshus there is not one of the Bhikshus in this community of Bhikshus who has doubt or confusion about the Buddha or about the Dhamma or about the Sangha or about the path or about the practice. Out of confidence, Ananda, you speak, but the realized one, Ananda, has knowledge that there is not one of the Bhikshus in this Sangha of monks who has doubt or confusion about the Buddha or about the Dhamma or about the Sangha or about the path or about the practice. For amongst these 500 Bhikshus, Ananda, he who is the last Bhikshu is a stream enterer, no longer subject to falling into the lower realms, and has a fixed destiny ending in final awakening. Then the gracious one addressed the Bhikshus, saying, Come now, Bhikshus, for I tell you, all conditioned things are subject to decay. Strive on with heedfulness. These were the last words of the realized one. Then the gracious one attained the first absorption, and after emerging from the first absorption, he attained the second absorption, and after emerging from the second absorption, he attained the third absorption, and after emerging from the third absorption, he attained the fourth absorption, and after emerging from the fourth absorption, he attained the sphere of endless space. And after emerging from the sphere of endless space, he attained the sphere of endless consciousness. And after emerging from the sphere of endless consciousness, he attained the sphere of nothingness. And after emerging from the sphere of nothingness, he attained the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. And after emerging from the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception, he attained the cessation of perception and feeling. Then Venerable Ananda said this to Venerable Anuruddha, Has the gracious one, Reverend Anuruddha, attained final emancipation? The gracious one, Reverend Ananda, has not attained final emancipation. He has attained the cessation of perception and feeling. Then the gracious one, after emerging from the cessation of perception and feeling, attained the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. And after emerging from the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception, he attained the sphere of nothingness. And after emerging from the sphere of nothingness, he attained the sphere of endless consciousness. And after emerging from the sphere of endless consciousness, he attained the sphere of endless space. And after emerging from the sphere of endless space, he attained the fourth absorption. And after emerging from the fourth absorption, he attained the third absorption. After emerging from the third absorption, he attained the second absorption. And after emerging from the second absorption, he attained the first absorption. And after emerging from the first absorption, he attained the second absorption. And after emerging from the second absorption, he attained the third absorption. And after emerging from the third absorption, he attained the fourth absorption. And after emerging from the fourth absorption, he immediately the gracious one attained final emancipation. When the gracious one attained final emancipation, along with the emancipation, there was a great earthquake and an awful, horrifying crash of the angels' thunder drum. Then, when the gracious one attained final emancipation, along with emancipation, Brahma Sahampati spoke this verse. All beings in the world will surely lay aside the body. In the same way, the teacher, such like, unmatched in the world, the realized one, attained to the 10 strengths. The Sambuddha has attained final emancipation. When the Gracious One attained final emancipation along with the emancipation, Saka, the master of the angels, spoke this verse. Impermanent indeed are all processes. Arisen, they have the nature to decay. After rising, they come to cessation. The stilling of them is blissful. When the Gracious One attained final emancipation along with emancipation, Venerable Anuruddha spoke these verses. There is no further breathing, for that such like one of steady mind, freed from lust, the sage who has died, has entered the peace of Nibbana. With an unshaken heart, he endured the painful feelings like a flame when it goes out, so his mind was liberated in Nibbana. When the Gracious One attained final emancipation along with emancipation, Venerable Ananda spoke this verse. With that there was fear, with that there was horror, when the Sambuddha, endowed with all noble qualities, attained emancipation. When the Gracious One attained final emancipation, those monks, those bhikshus there who were not free from passion, throwing up their arms, falling down as though cut down, rolling backwards and forwards as though with their feet cut off, were crying, "Too quickly the Gracious One has attained final emancipation, too quickly the Fortunate One has attained final emancipation, too quickly the visionary in the world has disappeared." But those bhikshus who were free from passion, mindfully and with full awareness, endured, thinking, "Impermanent are all processes, how can it be otherwise?" Then Venerable Anuruddha said this to the bhikshus. Enough, friends, do not grieve, do not lament. Were you not warned by the Gracious One when he declared that there is alteration in, separation from, and changeability in all that is dear and appealing? How can it be otherwise, friends? For that which is obtained, born, become, in process, subject to dissolution. It is not possible to say this. It should not dissolve. The angels' friends are complaining. But what beings and angels is the Venerable Anuruddha thinking of? There are, friend Ananda, angels in the sky perceiving the earth who, having disheveled hair, are weeping, throwing up their arms, falling down as though cut down, rolling backwards and forwards as though with their feet cut off, crying, "Too quickly the Gracious One has attained final emancipation, too quickly the Fortunate One has attained final emancipation, too quickly the visionary in the world has disappeared." There are, friend Ananda, angels on the earth perceiving the earth who, having disheveled hair, are weeping, throwing up their arms, falling down as though cut down, rolling backwards and forwards as though with their feet cut off, crying, "Too quickly the Gracious One has attained final emancipation, too quickly the Fortunate One has attained final emancipation, too quickly the visionary in the world has disappeared." But those angels who have cut off passion, they mindfully, with full awareness, endure, thinking, "Impermanent are all processes, how can it be otherwise?" Then Venerable Anuruddha and Venerable Ananda spent the rest of the night in talk about the Dhamma. Then Venerable Anuruddha addressed Venerable Ananda, saying, "Go, Ananda, and after entering Kusinara, inform the mullahs of Kusinara, saying, 'The Gracious One has attained emancipation, Vasitas. Now is the time for whatever you are thinking.'" "Very well, Reverend Sir," said Venerable Ananda, and after replying to Venerable Anuruddha, dressing in the metta time and taking his robes and bowl, he entered Kusinara with a companion. Now at that time the mullahs from Kusinara were assembled in the council hall, having some business or other. Then Venerable Ananda approached the mullahs from Kusinara in the council hall, and after approaching, he informed the mullahs of Kusinara, saying, "The Gracious One has attained emancipation, Vasitas. Now is the time for whatever you are thinking." After hearing this word from Venerable Ananda, the mullahs, the sons of the mullahs, the daughters-in-law of the mullahs, and the wives of the mullahs became miserable, depressed, with their minds given up over to suffering. Some, having disheveled hair, were weeping, throwing up their arms, falling down as though cut down, rolling backwards and forwards as though their feet were cut off. They were crying, "Too quickly the Gracious One has attained final emancipation, too quickly the Fortunate One has attained final emancipation, too quickly the visionary in the world has disappeared." Then the mullahs from Kusinara ordered their men, saying, "Now, friends, gather together perfume and flowers and all the musicians in Kusinara." Then the mullahs of Kusinara, having taken perfumes and garlands and all the musicians and 500 pairs of clothes, approached the mullah's Salwood at Upavatana and the Gracious One's body. After approaching the Gracious One's body, through honoring, respecting, revering, and honoring the body with dance, song, music, garlands, and perfumes, and making cloth canopies and preparing circular pavilions, they made the day pass. Then this occurred to the mullahs of Kusinara: "Today is too late to burn the Gracious One's body. Mañana we will burn the Gracious One's body." Then the mullahs of Kusinara, through honoring, respecting, revering, and honoring the Gracious One's body with dance, song, music, garlands, and perfumes, and making cloth canopies and preparing circular pavilions, they made the second day pass, they made the third day pass, they made the fourth day pass, they made the fifth day pass, they made the sixth day pass. Then on the seventh day this occurred to the mullahs of Kusinara. Whilst honoring, respecting, revering, and honoring the Gracious One's body with dance, song, music, garlands, and perfumes, after taking it out of the city by the south, on the outside of the city to the south, we will burn the Gracious One's body. Now at that time 8 leaders of the Mallas, having washed their heads and put on clean clothes, said, "Let us lift the gracious one's body," but they were not able to lift it. Then the Mallas of Kusinara said this to Venerable Anuruddha: "What is the reason, Anuruddha? What is the cause why 8 leaders of the Mallas, having washed their heads and put on clean clothes, and saying, 'Let us lift the gracious one's body,' are not able to lift it? You Vesetas have one intention, and the angels have another intention. But what is the angel's intention, Reverend Sir? Your intention, Vesetas, is we, whilst honoring, respecting, revering, and honoring the gracious one's body with dance, song, music, garlands, and perfumes, after taking out of the city by the south, on the outside of the city to the south, will burn the gracious one's body. The angel's intention, Vesetas, is we, whilst honoring, respecting, revering, and honoring the gracious one's body with the angels' dance, song, music, garlands, and perfumes, after carrying it to the north of the city by the north, and re-entering the city by the north gates, and carrying it to the middle of the city by the middle, and going out by the eastern gate to the east of the city at the Mala shrine called the Bonded Coronet. There let us burn the gracious one's body. Let us do according to the angel's intention, Reverend Sir." Now at that time the whole of Kusinara, including the dirty rubbish heaps, was covered knee-deep with divine coral tree flowers. Then the angels and the Mallas of Kusinara, whilst honoring, respecting, revering, and honoring the gracious one's body, with the angels and men's dance, song, music, garlands, and perfumes, after carrying it to the north of the city by the north, and re-entering the city by the north gate, and carrying it to the middle of the city by the middle, and going out by the eastern gate to the east of the city at the Mala shrine called the Bonded Coronet, there set down the gracious one's body. Then the Mallas of Kusinara said this to Venerable Ananda: "How do we act, Reverend Ananda, in regard to the realized one's body? As you act, Vesetas, in regard to the universal monarch's body, so you should act in regard to the realized one's body. But how do we act, Reverend Ananda, in regard to the universal monarch's body? They wrap the universal monarch's body, Vesetas, with clean cloth, and after wrapping with clean cloth, they wrap with carded cotton, and after wrapping with carded cotton, they wrap with clean cloth. By this means, after wrapping the universal monarch's body with 500 pairs of cloth and cotton, enclosing it in an oil tub made of iron, and enclosing it in another iron tub, and putting it in a scented funeral pyre, they burn the universal monarch's body, and they build a shrine for the universal monarch at the crossroads. So they act, Vesetas, in regard to a universal monarch's body. Just as they act, Vesetas, in regard to a universal monarch's body, so should they act in regard to a realized one's body, and a shrine should be made for the realized one at the crossroads. Whoever there prepares flowers, incense, or powder, or honors or establishes confidence in his mind, that will be for their benefit and happiness for a long time. Then the Mallas of Kusinara gave orders to their men, saying, "If it is so, then wrap the body with the Mallas' carded cloth, friends." Then the Mallas of Kusinara wrapped the gracious one's body with clean cloth, and after wrapping with clean cloth, they wrapped with carded wool. They wrapped with carded cotton, and after wrapping with carded cotton, they wrapped with clean cloth. And by this means, after wrapping the gracious one's body with 500 pairs of cloth and cotton, enclosing it in an oil tub made of iron, and enclosing it in another iron tub, and putting it on a scented funeral pyre, they put the gracious one's body on the funeral pyre. Now at that time Venerable Mahakassapa was traveling along the highway from Pava to Kusinara, together with a great sangha of bhikshus, around 500 bhikshus. Then Venerable Mahakassapa, after descending from the path, sat down at the root of a certain tree. Now at that time a certain Ajivaka, whilst holding a mandarava flower from Kusinara, was traveling along the highway to Pava. Venerable Mahakassapa saw that Ajivaka approaching from a distance, and after seeing him, he said this to Ajivaka: "Do you know our teacher, friend?" "Certainly, friend, I know. Today is 7 days since the final emancipation of the ascetic Gautama. Therefore, I am holding this mandarava flower." Then those bhikshus, though there who were not free from passion, some throwing up their arms, were weeping, falling down as though cut down, rolling backwards and forwards as though with their feet cut off, they were crying, "Too quickly the gracious one has attained final emancipation. Too quickly the fortunate one has attained final emancipation. Too quickly the visionary in the world has disappeared." But those bhikshus who were free from passion, mindfully, with full awareness, endured, thinking, "Impermanent are all processes, how can it be otherwise?" Now at that time, one who had gone forth in old age, named Subhada, was sitting in that group. Then Subhada, who had gone forth in old age, said this to those bhikshus: "Enough, friends, do not grieve, do not lament. We are now free from that troublesome great ascetic saying, 'This is allowable for you, this is not allowable for you.' But now we will do whatever we wish, and we will not do whatever we do not wish." Then Venerable Mahakassapa addressed the bhikshus, saying, "Enough, friends, do not grieve, do not lament. You are not were you not warned by the Gracious One, friends, when he declared this? There is alteration in, separation from, and changeability in all that is dear and appealing. How can it be otherwise, friends? For that which is obtained, born, become in process, subject to dissolution. It is not possible to say this, it should not dissolve. Now at that time 4 leaders of the Mullahs, having washed their heads and put on clean clothes, said, "Let us burn the Gracious One's funeral pyre," but they were not able to burn it. Then the Mullahs of Kusinara said this to Venerable Anuruddha: "What is the reason, Venerable Anuruddha? What is the cause why 4 leaders of the Mullahs, having washed their heads and put on clean clothes, and saying, 'Let us burn the Gracious One's funeral pyre,' are not able to burn it?" "The angels have another intention, Vesetas." "But what is the angel's intention, Reverend Sir?" "The angel's intentions, Veseta, is the Venerable Mahakassapa is traveling along the highway from Pava to Kusinara, together with a great sangha of bhikshus, around 500 bhikshus. The Gracious One's funeral pyre will not burn whilst Venerable Mahakassapa has not honored the Gracious One's feet with his head. Let us do according to the angel's intention, Reverend Sir." Then Venerable Mahakassapa approached Kusinara and the Mullah's shrine, called the bonded coronet and the Gracious One's funeral pyre, and after approaching and arranging his robe on one shoulder, extending his hands in respectful salutation, and circumambulating the funeral pyre 3 times, and uncovering the feet, he honored the Gracious One's feet with his head. Also 500 bhikshus, after arranging their robes on one shoulder, extending their hands in respectful salutation, and circumambulating the funeral pyre 3 times, honored the Gracious One's feet with their heads. After the Gracious One's feet had been honored by Venerable Mahakassapa and by 500 bhikshus, the funeral pyre caught fire by itself. Now when the Gracious One's body was burning, of the outer skin, the inner skin, the flesh, the sinews, the synovial fluid, neither charcoal was evident nor was ash of the body left over. Just as whilst ghee or oil is burning, there is no charcoal and no ash evident, so when the Gracious One's body was burning, of the outer skin, the inner skin, the flesh, the sinews, the synovial fluid, neither charcoal was evident nor was ash of the body left over. Only 2 of those 500 pairs of clothes were not consumed, that on the inside and that on the outside. When the Gracious One's body was burnt, a shower of water appeared in the sky, and the Gracious One's funeral pyre was extinguished. Also, after water rose from a well, the Gracious One's funeral pyre was extinguished. Also, the Mullahs from Kusinara extinguished the Gracious One's funeral pyre with all types of fragrant water. Then the Mullahs of Kusinara, after making an enclosure of spears in the council hall, and surrounding the Gracious One's bodily relics with bows, honored, respected, revered, and honored it with dance, song, music, garlands, and perfumes. The Magadhan king Ajatasattu, the son of Lady Wisdom, heard the Gracious One, it seems, has attained final emancipation in Kusinara. Then the Magadhan king Ajatasattu, the son of Lady Wisdom, sent a message to the Mullahs of Kusinara, saying, "The Gracious One was a noble, and I also am a noble. I am worthy of a share of the Gracious One's bodily relics. I will make a shrine and hold a festival for the bodily relics." Then the Lakavis of Vesali heard, "The Gracious One, it seems, has attained final emancipation in Kusinara." Then the Lakavis of Vesali sent a message to the Mullahs of Kusinara, saying, "The Gracious One was a noble, and we are also nobles. We are worthy of a share of the Gracious One's bodily relics. We will make a shrine and hold a festival for the bodily relics." Then the Sakyas of Kapilavatu heard, "The Gracious One, it seems, has attained final emancipation in Kusinara." Then the Sakyas of Kapilavatu sent a message to the Mullahs of Kusinara, saying, "The Gracious One was our foremost relative. We are worthy of a share of the Gracious One's bodily relics. We will make a shrine and hold a festival for the bodily relics." Then the Buddhas of Alakapa heard, "The Gracious One, it seems, has attained final emancipation in Kusinara," saying, "The Gracious One was a noble, and we also are nobles. We are worthy of a share of the Gracious One's bodily relics. We will make a shrine and hold a festival for the bodily relics." Then the Koliyas of Ramagama heard, "The Gracious One, it seems, has attained final emancipation in Kusinara." Then the Koliyas of Ramagama sent a message to the Mullahs of Kusinara, saying, "The Gracious One was a noble, and we also are nobles. We are worthy of a share of the Gracious One's bodily relics. We will make a shrine and hold a festival for the bodily relics." Then the Brahmin Veta Dipaka heard, "The Gracious One, it seems, has attained final emancipation in Kusinara." Then the Brahmin Veta Dipaka sent a message to the Mullahs of Kusinara, saying, "The Gracious One was a noble, and I am a Brahmin. I am worthy of a share of the Gracious One's bodily relics. I will make a shrine and hold a festival for the bodily relics." Then the Mullahs of Pava heard, "The Gracious One, it seems, has attained final emancipation in Kusinara." Then the Mullahs of Pava sent a message to the Mullahs of Kusinara, saying, "The Gracious One was a noble, and we also are nobles. We are worthy of a share of the Gracious One's bodily relics. We will make a shrine and hold a festival for the bodily relics." After this was said, the Mullahs of Kusinara said this to their community and group: "The Gracious One has attained final emancipation in the area of our village, but we will not see a share of the Gracious One's bodily relics. After this was said, the Brahmin Dona said this to their community and group. Listen, dear sirs, to a sentence of mine. Our Buddha was one who spoke about forbearance. It is not benevolent that there should be a battle about sharing the relics of the best man. Let us, united in concord, dear sirs, with joyful minds, make 8 shares of the relics, and set up shrines in every direction, so that many people may gain faith in the visionary one. Now, Brahmin, you must divide the gracious one's bodily relics in 8 equal divisions. Certainly, dear sir, said Dona the Brahmin. After replying to that community and group and dividing the gracious one's bodily relics in 8 equal divisions, he said this to that community and group. Please give me this urn, dear sirs, and I also will make a shrine and hold a festival for the urn. They gave the urn to Dona the Brahmin. Then the Maria of Pepperwood heard the gracious one, it seems, has attained final emancipation in Kusinara. Then the Maria of Pepperwood sent a message to the Mallas of Kusinara, saying, the gracious one was a noble, and we also are nobles. We are worthy of a share of the gracious one's bodily relics. We will make a shrine and hold a festival for the bodily relics. There are no further portions of the gracious one's relics. Instead, take the ashes from the gracious one's body. Therefore, they took away the ashes. Then the Magadhan king Ajatasattu, the son of Lady Wisdom, made a shrine for the gracious one's bodily relics at Rajagaha and held a festival. The Lakavis from Vesali made a shrine for the gracious one's bodily relics at Vesali and held a festival. The Sakyas from Kapilavatu made a shrine for the gracious one's bodily relics at Kapilavatu and held a festival. The Bulas of Alakapa made a shrine for the gracious one's bodily relics at Alakapa and held a festival. The Koliyas of Ramagama made a shrine for the gracious one's bodily relics at Ramagama and held a festival. The Veta Dipaka Brahmin made a shrine for the gracious one's bodily relics at Veta Dipa and held a festival. The Mallas of Pava made a shrine for the gracious one's bodily relics at Pava and held a festival. The Mallas of Kusinara made a shrine for the gracious one's bodily relics at Kusinara and held a festival. Dona the Brahmin made a shrine for the urn and held a festival. The Marias of Pepperwood made a shrine for the ashes at Pepperwood and held a festival. Thus there were 8 shrines for the bodily relics. The urn shrine was the 9th, and the ashes shrine was the 10th, and so it was in former times. There were 8 measures of the visionary's relics. 7 measures are honored in Jambutipa. 1 measure of the most noble man, the king of the dragons, honors in Ramagama. 1 tooth is honored in the heavens, and 1 is honored in the city of Gandhara, and a further one in the realm of the Kalinga king, and the king of the dragons honors 1 further. Through the power of these relics, this lovely earth is decorated like a most excellent hall. Thus, this body of the visionary one is well esteemed by those who respect the respectable. Honored by masters of angels, masters of dragons, and kings, the relics are honored by true masters of men. Honor those relics after holding up your hands. A Buddha is rare even in 100 eons. Altogether, 40 even teeth, the hair and body hair relics were carried off successively by the angels to the various universes. The discourse is completed. Metta Sutta. He who is skilled in what is benevolent and who wishes to attain that state of calm should act thus. He should be able, upright, obedient, gentle, and humble. Contented, easily supported with few duties, of right livelihood, controlled in senses, discreet, not imprudent, not to be greedily attached to families. He should not commit any slight wrong, such that other wise men might censure him. And he should think, may all beings be happy and secure, may their hearts be happy. Whatever living beings there are, feeble or strong, long, stout or medium, short, small or large, seen or unseen, those dwelling distant or near, those who are born and those who are to be born, may all beings without exception be happy-hearted. Let no one deceive another, nor despise any person, whatever in any place, either in anger or in ill will. Let one not wish any harm to another. Just as a mother protects her only child, even at her own life's risk, so let him cultivate a boundless heart towards all beings. Let his heart of boundless love pervade the whole world above, below, and across, with no obstruction, no hatred, and no enmity. Whether he stands, walks, sits, or lies down, as long as he is awake, he should develop this mindfulness. This, they say, is divine abiding here. Not falling into views, being virtuous and endowed with insight, he gives up attachment to sense desires. Truly, he does not come again for conception in a womb. Gospels, Luke 9:10. When Jesus had called the 12 together, he gave them power and authority to drive out all demons and to cure diseases. And he sent them out to proclaim the sovereignty of God and to heal the sick. He told them, "Take nothing for the journey, no staff, no bag, no bread, no money, no extra shirt. Whatever house you enter, stay there until you leave that town. If people do not welcome you, leave their town and shake the dust off your feet as a testimony against them." So they set out and went from village to village, proclaiming the benevolent news and healing people everywhere. Now Herod the Tetrarch heard about all that was going on, and he was perplexed, because some were saying that John had been raised from the dead, others that Eliyahu had appeared, and still others that one of the prophets of long ago had come back to life. But Herod said, "I beheaded John. Who then is this I hear such things about?" And he tried to see him. When the apostles returned, they reported to Jesus what they had done. Then he took them with him, and they withdrew by themselves to a town called Bethsaida. But the crowds learned about it and followed him. He welcomed them and spoke to them about the sovereignty of God and healed those who needed healing. Late in the afternoon, the 12 came to him and said, "Send the crowd away so that they can go to the surrounding villages and countryside and find food and lodging, because we are in a remote place here." He replied, "You give them something to eat." They answered, "We have only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, unless we go out and buy food for all this crowd." About 5,000 men were there. But he said to his disciples, have them sit down in groups of about 50 each. The disciples did so, and everyone sat down. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke them. Then he gave them to the disciples to distribute to the people. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken portions that were left over. Once, when Jesus was praying in private and his disciples were with him, he asked them, "Who do the crowd say I am?" They replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others say Eliyahu, and still others that one of the prophets of long ago has come back to life." "But what about you?" he asked. "Who do you say I am?" Peter answered, "God's Messiah." Jesus strictly warned them not to tell this to anyone, and he said, "The Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the teachers of the law, and he must be killed, and on the 3rd day be raised to life." Then he said to them all, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will save it. What benefit is it for someone to gain the whole world and yet lose or forfeit their very self? Whoever is ashamed of me and my words, the Son of Man will be ashamed of them when he comes in his glory and in the glory of the Creator and of the holy angels. Truly I tell you, some who are standing here will not taste death before they see the sovereignty of God." About 8 days after Jesus said this, he took Peter, John, and James with him and went up onto a mountain to pray. As he was praying, the appearance of his face changed, and his clothes became as bright as a flash of lightning. 2 men, Moshe and Eliyahu, appeared in glorious splendor, talking with Jesus. They spoke about his departure, which he was about to bring to fulfillment at Jerusalem. Peter and his companions were very sleepy, but when they became fully awake, they saw his glory and the 2 men standing with him. As the men were leaving Jesus, Peter said to him, "Master, it is beneficial for us to be here. Let us put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moshe, and one for Eliyahu." He did not know what he was saying. Whilst he was speaking, a cloud appeared and covered them, and they were afraid as they entered the cloud. A voice came from the cloud saying, "This is my son, whom I have chosen. Listen to him." When the voice had spoken, they found that Jesus was alone. The disciples kept this to themselves and did not tell anyone at that time what they had seen. The next day when they came down from the mountain, a large crowd met him. A man in the crowd called out, "Teacher, I beg you to look at my son, for he is my only child." A spirit seizes him, and he suddenly screams. It throws him into convulsions so that he foams at the mouth. It scarcely ever leaves him and is destroying him. I begged your disciples to drive it out, but they could not. "You unbelieving and perverse generation," Jesus replied, "how long shall I stay with you and put up with you? Bring your son here." Even whilst the boy was coming, the demon threw him into the ground in a convulsion. But Jesus rebuked the impure spirit, healed the boy, and gave him back to his father. And they were all amazed at the greatness of God. Whilst everyone was marveling at all that Jesus did, he said to his disciples, "Listen carefully to what I am about to tell you. The Son of Man is going to be delivered into the hands of men." But they did not understand what this meant. It was hidden from them so that they did not grasp it, and they were afraid to ask him about him. An argument started amongst the disciples as to which of them would be the greatest. Jesus, knowing their thoughts, took a little child, and had him stand beside him. Then he said to them, "Whoever welcomes this little child in my name welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. For it is the one who is least amongst you all who is the greatest." "Master," said Jesus, "we saw someone driving out demons in your name, and we tried to stop him because he is not one of us." "Do not stop him," Jesus said, "for whoever is not against you is for you." As the time approached for him to be taken up to heaven, Jesus resolutely set out for Yerushalayim, and he sent messengers on ahead, who went into a Samaritan village to get things ready for him. But the people there did not welcome him because he was heading for Yerushalayim. When the disciples James and John saw this, they asked, "Master, do you want us to call fire down from heaven to destroy them?" But Jesus turned and rebuked them. Then he and his disciples went to another village. As they were walking along the road, a man said to him, "I will follow you wherever you go." Jesus replied, "Foxes have dens, and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head." He said to another man, "Follow me." But he replied, "Master, first let me go and bury my father." Jesus said to him, "Let the dead bury their own dead, but you go and proclaim the sovereignty of God." Still another said, "I will follow you, Master, but first let me go back and say farewell to my family." Jesus replied, "No one who puts a hand to the plow and looks back is fit for service in the sovereignty of God." After this, the master appointed 72 others and sent them 2 by 2 ahead of him to every town and place where he was about to go. He told them, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask God of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into God's harvest field. Go, I am sending you out like lambs amongst wolves. Do not take a purse or bag or sandals, and do not greet anyone on the road. When you enter a house, first say, 'Peace to this house.' If someone who promotes peace is there, your peace will rest on them. If not, it will return to you. Stay there, eating and drinking whatever they give you, for the worker deserves his wages. Do not move around from house to house. When you enter a town and are welcomed, eat what is offered to you. Heal the sick who are there, and tell them the sovereignty of God has come near to you. But when you enter a town and are not welcomed, go into its streets and say, 'Even the dust of your town we wipe from our feet,' as a warning to you. Yet be sure of this, the sovereignty of God has come near. I tell you, it will be further bearable on that day for Sodom than for that town. Woe to you, Chorazin! Woe to you, Bethsaida! For if the miracles that were performed in you had been performed in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented long ago, sitting in sackcloth and ashes. But it will be further bearable for Tyre and Sidon at the judgment than for you. And you, Capernaum, will you be lifted to the heavens? No, you will go down to Hades. Whoever listens to you listens to me. Whoever rejects you rejects me, but whoever rejects me rejects God who sent me." The 72 returned with joy and said, "Master, even the demons submit to us in your name." He replied, "I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions and to overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you. However, do not rejoice that the spirits submit to you, but rejoice that your names are written in heaven." At that time, Jesus, full of joy through the Holy Spirit, said, "I praise you, Creator, God of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and learned and revealed them to little children. Yes, Creator, for this is what you were pleased to do. All things have been committed to me by my Creator. No one knows the Son except the Creator, and no one knows who the Creator is except the Son, and those to whom the Son chooses to reveal God." Then he returned to his disciples and said privately, "Blessed are the eyes that see what you see, for I tell you that many prophets and kings wanted to see what you see but did not see it, and to hear what you hear but did not hear it." On one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to Jesus. "Teacher," he asked, "what must I do to inherit eternal life?" "What is written in the law?" he replied. "How do you read?" He answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." "You have answered correctly," Jesus replied. "Do this and you will live." But he wanted to justify himself, so he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" In reply, Jesus said, "A man was going down from Yerushalayim to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. "Look after him," he said, "and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have." Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? The expert in the law replied, "The one who had mercy on him." Jesus told him, "Go and do likewise." As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the master's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, "Master, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me." "Martha, Martha," the master answered, "you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." From Quran, Surah Al-Ankabut and Surah Al-Rum. Surah Al-Ankabut, 29. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Alif Lam Mim. Do men think that they will be left alone on saying we believe, and that they will not be tested? We did test those before them, and Allah will certainly know those who are true from those who are false. Do those who practice evil think that they will get the better of us? Evil is their judgment. For those whose hopes are in the meeting with Allah in the hereafter, let them strive. For the term appointed by Allah is surely coming, and Allah hears and knows all things. And if any strive with might and main, they do so for their own souls. For Allah is free of all needs from all creation. Those who believe and work righteous deeds, from them shall we blot out all evil that may be in them, and we shall reward them according to the best of their deeds. We have enjoined on man kindness to parents, but if they either of them strive to force thee to join with me in worship anything of which thou hast no knowledge, obey them not. Ye have all to return to me, and I will tell you the truth of all that ye did. And those who believe and work righteous deeds, them shall we admit to the company of the righteous. Then there are amongst men such as say, we believe in Allah, but when they suffer affliction in the cause of Allah, they treat men's oppression as if it were the wrath of Allah. And if help comes to thee from thy Lord, they are sure to say, we have always been with you. Does not Allah know best all that is in the hearts of all creation? And Allah most certainly knows those who believe, and as certainly those who are hypocrites. And the unbelievers say to those who believe, follow our path, and we will bear the consequences of your faults. Nevertheless will they bear their faults. In fact, they are liars. They will bear their own burdens and other burdens along with their own, and on the day of judgments they will be called to account for their falsehoods. We once sent Noah to his people, and he tarried amongst them 1,000 years, less 50. But the deluge overwhelmed them, whilst they persisted in sin. But we saved him and the companions of the ark, and we made the ark a sign for all peoples. And we also saved Abraham. Behold, he said to his people, serve Allah and fear Allah. That will be best for you if ye understand. For ye do worship idols besides Allah, and ye invent falsehood. The things that ye worship besides Allah have no power to give you sustenance. Then seek ye sustenance from Allah. Serve Allah and be grateful to Allah. To Allah will be your return. And if you reject the message, so did generations before you, and the duty of the apostles only to preach publicly and clearly. See they not how Allah originates creation, then repeats it? Truly that is easy for Allah. Say, travel through the earth and see how Allah did originate creation. So will Allah produce a later creation, for Allah has power over all things. Allah punishes whom Allah pleases, and Allah grants mercy to whom Allah pleases, and towards Allah are ye turned. Not on earth nor in heaven will ye be able fleeing to frustrate Allah's plan, nor have ye besides Allah any protector or helper. Those who reject the signs of Allah and the meeting with Allah in the hereafter, it is they who shall despair of my mercy, it is they who will suffer a most grievous penalty. So not was the answer of Abraham's people, except that they said, slay him or burn him. But Allah did save him from the fire. Verily in this are signs for people who believe. And he said, for you ye have taken for worship idols besides Allah, out of mutual love and regard between yourselves in this life, but on the day of judgment ye shall disown each other and curse each other, and your abode will be the fire, and ye shall have none to help. But Lot had faith in Allah. He said, I will leave home for the sake of my Lord, for Allah is exalted in might and wise. And we gave him Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, and ordained amongst his progeny prophethood and revelation, and we granted him his reward in this life, and he was in the hereafter of the company of the righteous. And remember Lot, behold, he said to his people, Ye do commit lewdness, such as no people in creation ever committed before you. Do ye indeed approach men and cut off the highway, and practice wickedness even in your counsels? But his people gave no answer but this. They said, Bring us the wrath of Allah if thou tellest the truth. He said, O my Lord, help thou me against people who do mischief. When our messengers came to Abraham with the benevolent news, they said, We are indeed going to destroy the people of this township, for truly they are addicted to crime. He said, But there is Lot there. They said, Well, do we know who is there? We will certainly save him and his following, except his wife. She is of those who lag behind. And when our messengers came to Lot, he was grieved on their account, and felt himself powerless to protect them. But they said, Fear thou not, nor grieve. We are here to save thee and thy following, except thy wife. She is of those who lag behind. For we are going to bring down on the people of this township a punishment from heaven, because they have been wickedly rebellious. And we have left thereof an evident sign for any people who care to understand. To the Madian people we sent their brother Shuaib. Then he said, O my people, serve Allah and fear the last day, nor commit evil on the earth with intent to do mischief. But they rejected him. Then the mighty blast seized them, and they lay prostrate in their homes by the Matan. Remember also the Ad and the Tamud people. Clearly will appear to you from the traces of their buildings their fate. The evil one made their deeds alluring to them, and kept them back from the path, though they were gifted with intelligence and skill. Remember also Qarun, Pharaoh, and Haman. There came to them Moshe with clear signs, but they behaved with insolence on the earth, yet they could not overreach us. Each one of them we seized for his crime. Of them against some we sent a violent tornado with showers of stones. Some were caught by a mighty blast. Some we caused the earth to swallow up, and some we drowned in the waters. It was not Allah who injured or oppressed them. They injured and oppressed their own souls. The parable of those who take protectors other than Allah is that of the spider, who builds to itself a house, but truly the flimsiest of houses is the spider's house, if they but knew. Verily Allah doth know of everything whatever that they call upon besides Allah, and Allah is exalted in power, wise. Such are the parables we set forth for mankind, but only those understand them who have knowledge. Allah created the heavens and the earth in true proportions. Verily that is a sign for those who believe. Recite what is sent of the book by inspiration to thee, and establish regular prayer, and prayer restrains from shameful and unjust deeds. And remembrance of Allah is the greatest thing in life without doubt, and Allah knows the deeds that ye do. And dispute ye not with the people of the book, except with means better than mere disputation, unless it be with those of them who inflict wrong and injury. But say, we believe in the revelation which has come down to us, and in that which came down to you. Our God and your God is one, and it is to Allah we bow in Islam. And thus it is that we have sent down the book to thee, so the people of the book believe therein, as also do some of those hedonist Arabs, and none but unbelievers reject our signs. And thou wast not able to recite a book before this book came, nor art thou able to transcribe it with thy right hand. In that case, indeed, would the talkers of vanities have doubted. Nay, here are signs self-evident in the hearts of those endowed with knowledge, and none but the unjust reject our signs. Ye then say, Why are not signs sent down to him from his Lord? Say, the signs are indeed with Allah, and I am indeed a clear warner. And is it not enough for them that we have sent down to thee the book which is rehearsed to them? Verily in it is mercy and a reminder to those who believe. Say, enough is Allah for a witness between me and you. Allah knows what is in the heavens and on earth, and it is those who believe in vanities and reject Allah that will perish in the end. They ask thee to hasten on the punishment for them. Had it not been for a term of respite appointed, the punishment would certainly have come to them, and it will certainly reach them of a sudden, whilst they perceive not. They ask thee to hasten on the punishment, but of a surety hell will encompass the rejectors of faith. On the day that the punishment shall cover them from above them and from below them, and a voice shall say, Taste ye the fruits of your deeds. O my servants who believe, truly spacious is my earth, therefore serve ye me and me alone. Every soul shall have a taste of death. In the end to us shall ye be brought back. But those who believe and work deeds of righteousness, to them shall we give a home in the heaven, lofty mansions beneath which rivers flow, to dwell therein for aye, an excellent reward for those who do benevolence. Those who persevere in patience and put their trust in their Lord and Cherisher. How many are the creatures that carry not their own sustenance? It is Allah who feeds both them and you, for Allah hears and knows all things. If indeed thou ask them who has created the heavens and the earth and subjected the soleil and the moon to Allah's law, they will certainly reply, Allah. how are they then deluded away from the truth? Allah enlarges the sustenance which Allah gives to whichever of Allah's servants Allah pleases, and Allah similarly grants by strict measure as Allah pleases, for Allah has full knowledge of all things. And if indeed thou ask them who it is that sends rain down from the sky and gives life therewith to the earth after its death, they will certainly reply, Allah. Say, praise be to Allah, but most of them understand not. What is the life of this world but amusement and play? But verily the home in the hereafter, that is life indeed, if they but knew. Now if they embark on a boat, they call on Allah, making their devotion sincerely and exclusively to Allah. But when Allah has delivered them safely to dry land, behold, they give a share of their worship to others, disdaining ungratefully our gifts, and giving themselves up to worldly enjoyment. But soon will they know. Do they not then see that we have made a sanctuary secure, and that men are being snatched away from all around them? Then do they believe in that which is vain, and reject the grace of Allah. And who does further wrong than he who invents a lie against Allah, or rejects the truth when it reaches him? Is there not a home in hell for those who reject faith? And those who strive in our cause, we will certainly guide them to our paths, for verily Allah is with those who do right. Surah Al-Rum 30. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Alif Lam Mim. The Roman Empire has been defeated in a land close by, but they, even after this defeat of theirs, will soon be victorious. Within a few years, with Allah is the decision in the past and in the future. On that day shall the believers rejoice, with the help of Allah. Allah helps whom Allah will, and Allah is exalted in might, most merciful. It is the promise of Allah. Never does Allah depart from Allah's promise, but most men understand not. They know but the outer things in the life of this world, but of the end of things they are heedless. Do they not reflect in their own minds? Not but for just ends and for a term appointed did Allah create the heavens and the earth and all between them. Yet are they truly many amongst men who deny the meeting with their Lord at the resurrection. Do they not travel through the earth and see what was the end of those before them? They were superior to them in strength. They tilled the soil and populated in greater numbers than these have done. There came to them their apostles with clear signs, which they rejected to their own destruction. It was not Allah who wronged them, but they wronged their own souls. In the long run, evil in the extreme will be the end of those who do evil, for that they rejected the signs of Allah and held them up to ridicule. It is Allah who begins the process of creation, then repeats it. Then shall ye be brought back to Allah. On the day that the hour will be established, the guilty will be struck dumb with despair. No intercessor will they have amongst their partners, and they will themselves reject their partners. On the day that the hour will be established, that day shall all men be sorted out. Then those who have believed and worked righteous deeds shall be made happy in a mead of delight, and those who have rejected faith and falsely denied our signs and the meeting of the hereafter, such shall be brought forth to punishment. So give glory to Allah when ye reach eventide and when ye rise in the matan. Yea, to Allah be praised in the heavens and on earth, and in the late afternoon, and when the day begins to decline. It is Allah who brings out the living from the dead, and brings out the dead from the living, and who gives life to the earth after it is dead, and thus shall ye be brought back thus shall ye be brought out from the dead. Amongst Allah's signs is this, that Allah created you from dust, and then behold ye are men scattered distant and wide. And amongst Allah's signs is this, that Allah created for you mates from amongst yourselves, that ye may dwell in tranquility with them, and Allah has put love and mercy between your hearts. Verily in that are signs for those who reflect. And amongst Allah's signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the variations in your languages and your colors. Verily in that are signs for those who know. And amongst Allah's signs is the sleep that ye take by night and by day, and the quest that ye make for livelihood out of Allah's bounty. Verily in that are signs for those who hearken. And amongst Allah's signs, Allah shows you the lightning by way both of fear and of hope. And Allah sends down rain from the sky, and with it gives life to the earth after it is dead. Verily in that are signs for those who are wise. And amongst Allah's signs is this, that the heaven and earth stand by Allah's command. Then when Allah calls you by a single call from the earth, behold, ye straightway come forth. To Allah belongs every being that is in the heavens and on earth. All are devoutly obedient to Allah. It is Allah who begins the process of creation, then repeats it, and for Allah it is most easy. To Allah belongs the loftiest similitude we can think of in the heavens and the earth, for Allah is exalted in might, full of wisdom. Allah does propound to you a similitude from your own experience. Do ye have partners amongst those whom your right hands possess, to share as equals in the wealth we have bestowed on you? Do ye fear them as ye fear each other? Thus do we explain the signs in detail to a people that understand. Nay, the wrongdoers merely follow their own lust, being devoid of knowledge. But who will guide those whom Allah leaves astray? To them there will be no helpers. So set thou thy face steadily and truly to the faith. Establish Allah's handiwork according to the pattern on which Allah has made mankind. No change let there be in the work wrought by Allah. That is the standard religion, but most amongst mankind understand not. Turn ye back in repentance to Allah and fear Allah. Establish regular prayers and be not ye amongst those who join deities with Allah, those who split up their religion and become mere sects, each party rejoicing in that which is with itself. When trouble touches men, they cry to their Lord, turning back to Allah in repentance. But when Allah gives them a taste of mercy as from Allah, behold, some of them pay part worship to other deities besides their Lord, as if to show their ingratitude for the favors we have bestowed on them. Then enjoy your brief day, but soon will ye know your folly. Or have we sent down authority to them, which points out to them the things to which they pay part worship? When we give men a taste of mercy, they exult thereat, and when some evil afflicts them because of what their own hands have sent forth, behold, they are in despair. See they not that Allah enlarges the provision and restricts it to whomsoever Allah pleases? Verily in that are signs for those who believe. So give what is due to kindred, the needy, and the wayfarer. That is best for those who seek the continence of Allah, and it is they who will prosper. That which ye lay out for increase through the property of other people will have no increase with Allah, but that which ye lay out for charity, seeking the continence of Allah, will increase. It is these who will get a recompense multiplied. It is Allah who has created you. Further, Allah has provided for you sustenance. Then Allah will cause you to die, and again Allah will give you life. Are there any of your false partners who can do any single one of these things? Glory to Allah, and high is Allah above the partners they attribute to Allah. Mischief has appeared on the land and sea because of the meed that the hands of men have earned, that Allah may give them a taste of some of their deeds, in order that they may turn back from evil. Say, travel through the earth and see what was the end of those before you. Most of them worship others besides Allah. But set thou thy face to the right religion before there come from Allah the day which there is no chance of averting. On that day shall men be divided in two. Those who reject faith will suffer from that rejection, and those who work righteousness will spread their couch of repose for themselves in heaven, that Allah may reward those who believe and work righteous deeds out of Allah's bounty, for Allah loves not those who reject faith. Amongst Allah's signs is this, that Allah sends the winds as heralds of glad tidings, giving you a taste of Allah's grace and mercy, that the ships may sail majestically by Allah's command, and that ye may seek of Allah's bounty, in order that ye may be grateful. We did indeed send before the apostles to their respective peoples, and they came to them with clear signs. Then to those who were transgressed we meted out retribution, and it was due from us to aid those who believed. It is Allah who sends the winds, and they raise the clouds. Then does Allah spread them in the sky as Allah wills, and break them into fragments, until thou seest raindrops issue from the midst thereof. Then when Allah has made them reject such of Allah's servants as Allah wills, behold, they do rejoice. Even though before they received the rain, just before this, they were dumb with despair. They contemplate, O man, the memorials of Allah's mercy, how Allah gives life to the earth after its death. Verily the same will give life to the men who are dead, for Allah has power over all things. And if we but send a wind from which they see their tilth turn yellow, behold, they will become thereafter ungrateful unbelievers. So verily thou canst not make the dead to hear, nor canst thou make the deaf to hear the call, when they show their backs and turn away. Nor canst thou lead back the blind from their straying. Only those wilt thou make to hear who believe in our signs and submit their wills in Islam. It is Allah who created you in a state of helpless weakness, then gave you strength after weakness, then after strength gave you weakness and an hoary head. Allah creates as Allah wills, and it is Allah who has all knowledge and power. On the day that the hour of reckoning will be established, their transgressors will swear that they tarried not but for an hour, thus were they used to being deluded. But those endued with knowledge and faith will say, indeed ye did tarry within Allah's decree to the day of resurrection, and this is the day of resurrection, but ye were not aware. So on that day no excuse of theirs will avail the transgressors, nor will they be invited then to seek grace by repentance. Verily we have propounded for men in this Quran every kind of parable. But if thou bring to them any sign, the unbelievers are sure to say, Ye did nothing but talk vanities. Thus does Allah seal up the hearts of those who understand not. So patiently persevere, for verily the promise of Allah is true, nor let those shake thy firmness who have themselves no certainty of faith. Kitab Yaqdas, verse 115 a 133. Blessed is he who at the hour of dawn, centering his thoughts on God, occupied with God's remembrance and supplicating God's forgiveness, directed his steps to the Mashriqul Adkar, and entering therein, seateth himself in silence to listen to the verses of God, the Sovereign, the Mighty, the All-Praised. Say, the Mashriqul Adkar is each and every building which hath been erected in cities and villages for the celebration of my praise. Such is the name by which it hath been designated before the throne of glory, were ye of those who understand. They who recite the verses of the All-Merciful in the most melodious of tones will perceive in them that with which the sovereignty of earth and heaven can never be compared. From them they will inhale the divine fragrance of my worlds which today none can discern save those who have been endowed with vision through this beauteous revelation. Say, these verses draw hearts that are pure unto those spiritual worlds that can neither be expressed in words nor intimated by illusion. Blessed be those who hearken. Assist ye, O my people, my chosen servants, who have arisen to make mention of me amongst my creatures, and to exalt my word throughout my realm. These truly are the stars of the heaven of my loving providence, and the lamps of my guidance unto all mankind. But he whose words conflict with that which hath been sent down in my holy tablets is not of me. Beware lest he follow any impious pretender. These tablets are embellished with the seal of God, who causeth the dawn to appear, who lifteth up God's voice between the heavens and the earth. Lay hold of this sure handle, and on the cord of my mighty and unassailable cause. The Lord hath granted leave to whosoever desireth it, that he be instructed in the diverse tongues of the world, that he may deliver the message of the cause of God throughout the east and throughout the west, that he make mention of God amidst the kindreds and peoples of the world, in such wise that hearts may revive and the mouldering bone be quickened. It is inadmissible that man who hath been endowed with reason should consume that which stealeth it away. Nay, rather it behoveth him to comport himself in a manner worthy of human station, and not in accordance with the misdeeds of every heedless and wavering soul. Adorn your heads with garlands of trustworthiness and fidelity, your hearts with the attire of the fear of God, your tongues with absolute truthfulness, your bodies with the vesture of courtesy. These are in truth seemly adornings unto the temple of man, if ye be of them that reflect. Cling ye, O ye people of Baha, to the cord of servitude unto God, the true one, for thereby your stations shall be made manifest, your names written and preserved, your ranks raised, and your memory exalted in the preserved tablet. Beware lest the dwellers on earth hinder you from this glorious and exalted station. Thus have we exhorted you in most of our epistles, and now in this our holy tablet, above which hath beamed the day star of the laws of the Lord your God, the powerful, the all-wise. When the ocean of my presence hath ebbed, and the book of my revelation is ended, turn your faces towards him whom God hath purposed, who hath branched from this ancient root. Consider the pettiness of men's minds. They ask for that which endureth them, and cast away the thing that benefiteth them. They are indeed of those that are distantly astray. We find some men desiring liberty and priding themselves therein. Such men are in the depths of ignorance. Liberty must in the end lead to sedition, whose flames none can quench. Thus warneth you God, who is the reckoner, the all-knowing. Know ye that the embodiment of liberty and its symbol is the animal. That which beseemeth man is submission unto such restraints as will protect him from his own ignorance, and guard him against the harm of the mischief maker. Liberty causeth man to overstep the bounds of propriety, and to infringe on the dignity of his station. It debaseth him to the level of extreme depravity and wickedness. Regard men as a flock of sheep that need a shepherd for their protection. This verily is the truth, the certain truth. We approve of liberty in certain circumstances, and refuse to sanction it in others. We verily are the all-knowing. Say, true liberty consisteth in man's submission unto my commandments, little as ye know it. Were men to observe that which we have sent down unto them from the heaven of revelation, they would of a certainty attain unto perfect liberty. Happy is the man that hath apprehended the purpose of God in whatever God hath revealed from heaven of God's will that pervadeth all created things. Say, the liberty that benefiteth you is to be found nowhere except in complete servitude unto God, the eternal truth. Whoso hath tasted of its sweetness will refuse to barter it for all the dominion on earth and heaven. In the Bayan it hath been forbidden you to ask us questions. The Lord hath now relieved you of this prohibition, that ye be free to ask what ye need to ask, but not such idle questions as those on which the men of former times were wont to dwell. Fear God, and be ye of the righteous. Ask ye that which shall be of benefit to you in the cause of God and God's dominion. For the portals of God's tender compassion have been opened before all who dwell in heaven and on earth. The number of months in a year appointed in the book of God is 19. Of those the first hath been adorned with this name, which overshadoweth the whole of creation. The Lord hath decreed that the dead should be interred in coffins made of crystal, of hard, resistant stone, or of wood that is both fine and durable, and that graven rings should be placed upon their fingers. God verily is the supreme ordainer, the one apprised of all. The inscription on these rings should read, For man unto God belongeth all that is in the heavens and on the earth, and whatsoever is between them, and God in truth hath knowledge of all things. And for women unto God belongeth the dominion of the heavens and the earth, and whatsoever is between them, and God in truth is potent over all things. These are the verses that were revealed aforetime, but lo, the point of the Bayan now calleth out, exclaiming, O best beloved of the worlds, reveal thou in their stead such words as will waft the fragrance of thy gracious favors over all mankind. We have announced unto everyone that one single word from thee excelleth all that hath been sent down in the Bayan. Thou indeed hast power, to do what pleaseth thee. Deprive not thy servants of the overflowing bounties of the ocean of thy mercy. Thou in truth art These the verses that were revealed aforetime, but lo, the point of the Bayan now calleth out, exclaiming, O best beloved of the worlds, reveal thou in their stead such words as will waft the fragrance of thy gracious favors over all mankind. We have announced unto everyone that one single word from thee excelleth all that hath been sent down in the Bayan. Thou indeed hast power to do what pleaseth thee. Deprive not thy servants of the overflowing bounties of the ocean of thy mercy. Thou in truth art God, whose grace is infinite. Behold, we have hearkened to God's call, and now fulfill God's wish. God verily is the best beloved, the answerer of prayers. If the following verse, which hath at this moment been sent down by God, be engraved upon the burial rings of both men and women, it shall be better for them. We of a certainty are the supreme ordainer. I come forth from God and return unto God, detached from all save God, holding fast to God's name, the merciful, the compassionate. Thus doth the Lord single out whomsoever God desireth for a bounty from God's presence. God is in very truth the God of might and power. The Lord hath decreed Further, that the deceased should be enfolded in 5 sheets of silk or cotton. For those whose means are limited, a single sheet or of either fabric will suffice. Thus hath it been ordained by God, who is the all-knowing, the all-informed. It is forbidden you to transport the body of the deceased a greater distance than 1 hour's journey from the city. Rather should it be interred with radiance and serenity in a nearby place. God hath removed the restrictions on travel that had been imposed in the Bayan. God verily is the unconstrained. God doeth as God pleaseth, and ordaineth whatsoever God willeth. O peoples of the world, give ear unto the call of God, who is the Lord of names, who proclaimeth unto you from God's habitation the most great prison. Verily, no deity is there but me, the powerful, the mighty, the all-subduing, the most exalted, the omniscient, the all-wise. In truth, there is no deity but God, the omnipotent ruler of the worlds. Were it God's will, God would, through but a single word proceeding from God's presence, lay hold on all mankind. Beware lest ye hesitate in your acceptance of this cause, a cause before which the concourse of on high and the dwellers of the cities of names have bowed down. Fear God, and be not of those who are shut out as by a veil. Burn ye away the veils with the fire of my love, and dispel ye the mists of vain imaginings by the power of this name through which we have subdued the entire creation. Raise up and exalt the 2 houses in the twin hallowed spots, and the other sites wherein the throne of your Lord, the All-Merciful, hath been established. Thus commandeth you the Lord of every understanding heart. Alhamdulillah, Ar-Rahmani Ar-Rahim. Allahu Akbar. Dao ke Dao Fei Cheng Dao Ming ke Ming Fei Cheng Ming Ja Rastafari. Deus nos de quies in celis sanctificator nomen tuum. Vaheguru Sanam. Baruch atah Elohim Eloheinu melech haolam, asher ketzanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'sok b'divai Torah. Amen. Kyrie eleison. Sivamastu sabe jekatehim, sabe sata b'avantu sukitata. Vagabiem. Akwaba upendo na amani. Kyrie nesalam, chintadam permian, libovamir womenjaka. Ubuntu shabano fakitkan. Shishin, como senida, domo arigato, pero mayelo wakatoko, toko doko shingun, gomanagan. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Ata jamia yatafanami. Ado, home, om shanti, shanti, shanti. Amen. Honor and respect to His Majesty Haile Selassie. Honor and respect to Her Majesty Waizaro Manan. All thanks and praise to the Most High Elohim Jah. Blessed love and peace.